Welcome back everyone to the Hello World Guide. This is another episode of the C programming series, and in this video we are going to continue by learning about variables and printing numbers to the screen. First of all, let us start with variables. So what is a variable? A variable is basically a place in a computer's RAM with a specific size and type, which in which you can store different kinds of values, because right now we have only got like this. So yeah, we can print this, but the problem here is that this is a fixed thing, and in computers we often want to like have different kind of variables that we can put different kind of data into, and then we can use those to change the data or update it or do a bunch of stuff. So how do we create a variable? Well, in order to create a variable in C, there are basically three parts in a variable declaration. First of all is the type of the variable, and this comes first, and we are going to create a number variable which is of type integer. So we are going to say int, which stands for integer. After that comes the variable name. Let's just call this number, and you can actually put a semicolon after that, and this is all you need for the variable declaration. But you can also go ahead and add an equal sign after this and set this to some value, for example 32. It's really as simple as that. And if we set this integer called number to 32, this means that this is a modifiable place in the computer's RAM. So if we want to access this variable later, we can easily do that, and we can also change its value. That's all pretty awesome. But what we want to first of all learn is how to actually take this variable and output it to the screen. Well, in order to do that, it's actually pretty simple. What we need to do is what you should remember is that we use this function called printf to print stuff to the screen. The reason it's called printf, the point of f here is that it is format. Formatted means that we can actually format this string to contain this print data that we are giving, the text, the string. We can format it by adding different kind of signs and symbols to put different kind of data in it. For example, like we have this string, we can put more strings in it, which we can have variables, and we can also like put numbers in there, which is pretty easy. Because if you like go ahead and try to print a number, it won't work, because this is not text, it's actually a number. And if you like write that out, it actually is not going to function correctly, even though you can see it's not exactly giving an error right now. But if I go ahead and run the program, so if I go here and I say gcc hello.c, and if I do that, if it actually compiles, you can see that it does give a warning but does not give an error. And if I actually run my program by saying a.exe, it then gives an error. So you should see that the program does not work, and it says that it has failed. So that's the problem. You can't actually put a number here. If you want to output a number, you can do it in one way. So I'm going to first put of course we want to start the new line after the number, so we are going to add this here, and we are going to add a percentage sign here by like this, and after that we are going to say d. Now what does this d means decimal, and this means we can actually put a number that we want to print here. So if I go ahead and so we have like given it one value, and in that value is a piece of text, a string, and in that string we say we want to print a number, and then we want to go ahead and go to the new line. But what number do we want to print? For that we can add another argument, another value here. In order to do that, we can just put a comma and press space, and then we can say something like number, and this now actually should work. So if I go ahead and compile it again and then run it again, a.exe, come on, a.exe, but you should see that it says 32 correctly. The reason it does that is because we have got it in the correct place. Now we can set something, say something as like we can say for example the number is, and we can still have this d here. And what you should notice is that this d will, wherever we put it in this text, it will be printed that way. So if I say kind of this thing, what you should see is that if I go ahead and run a now, you can see it says the number is 32, replacing this d with the value of the number. And if I go ahead and for example if I say and and twice that number, for example, well, we'll get to that in a second. So we got all of that. Now I think it's time to learn the actual arithmetic operations you can do on numbers. So we have got this now, and I'm going to say and twice that number, and twice that number is, and we can go ahead and say that, and we can actually put another d here. You can put as many of these as you like, but make sure that the number of like formatting you have got here exactly matches the number of arguments you are giving it there. For this, I'm going to basically say number and then add this star sign, which means multiply, and multiply that by 2. What that means is that if I run it now, a.exe, what you should see says that number is 32 and twice that number is 64, which is correct. And this is for multiplication. We can also like add, and if I add it actually instead of multiplying, what you should see is that it says 34. And you can also subtract, actually, for example, if I say, you can subtract and divide as well. So for example, if I say half that number, then I can divide it like that, and let's compile again and run again, like that. You can see that half that number is 16. Now it's doing everything correctly, and this means that we have essentially got it working. Now we can also change the number, and that's also pretty easy to do. All you need to do is to change a number is say number and put an equal sign after this, and of course we don't put an int here. That would mean we are redefining the number. If we do not put an int, it means that the variable already exists, but we are changing its value. So if I say 33 now, and if I go ahead and add another printf statement here and say something like yeah, like that, something like wow, the number is now this, and then we output the number. And if I go ahead and run it, what you should see is that it says the number is 32 and half the number is 16, and wow, the number is now 33. And that works. We are going to put a new line here, by the way. And that is pretty much all you need to know for like setting variables in different ways. So there are of course a couple of extra tricks that you should know, and the tricks we are going to begin with like number. So for example, if you want to like add 1 to the number, so if I go ahead and say number plus 1, now that this is one way to do it, but you can see that we are like repeating the number variable twice, which is not that awesome, because you know this is kind of repetitive and unnecessary like text. So we can actually of course this works as well, but we can actually remove this number and add a plus equal sign here. What this means is that it will take this value and add this to the number. So if I go ahead and compile now, what you should see is it still says 33. Now that works, and we can of course replace this with something like 5, and it will adjust to our changes. You can see it says 37. Now there that's pretty awesome, but another thing you can do to like save space even more is, for example, if we want to add only 1, we can actually just remove all of this and put 2 plus signs here, and number plus plus. This means incrementing, and if I do that, it automatically adds 1 to the number. And I can actually go ahead and say minus minus as well, and that will subtract 1 from the number. So yeah, this was pretty much it for this video. In the next video, we are going to get started using taking input, for example, because right now we are like defining all variables here, but we would like to like have the user define those variables so that we can create some kind of calculator or something. So we'll do that in the next video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for that. I will see you in the next one, and bye.